Back in primary, growing up, I had an issue of trying to fit in, wanting to be a part of the group, trying to look cool and flex with every other person who was trying to flex with whatever they were doing. So I sit down and want to connect and relate with people, but then they do things I can't do. They say things I can't say. They talk in a way I can't talk. So I'm like, how am I going to do so that at least I may count, at least I may be appreciated, at least I may show up to be one of them, at least so that I may be one of them, at least they may consider me as one who is existing too. So it was a really big struggle trying to want to be a part of the flock that I couldn't fit in because we had different characteristics. So I will listen to how they speak and try to imitate that, how they walk and try to go like that, how they do their things, how they act, how they wear, how they dress, and it was really a very big struggle. But then I came across one of the cartoons or movies that we have watched, but then it held a deeper meaning for me at that time. Tarzan. Tarzan is a boy who was born and brought up by baboons. So because of the background he grew up in, he was taught to speak like baboons, to walk like baboons, to do like baboons, to move like baboons. But then he is a human being. So just because of where he was born and how he was raised did not make him a baboon. But then that is all he has ever been told. So him knowing himself, he knows this is how I speak, this is how I do my things, this is how I ought to grow up. But then that is not who he is. So just because of how he was raised did not mean that he was a baboon. But for him to come to know the awareness and the consciousness of who he is, then he ought to find what makes him uniquely different from them. The baboons are not in any way at fault because they've received the boy and they brought him up in how they knew best. So the baboons were not in any way at fault, and so was not Tarzan. But then if he wanted to pursue his identity, live to fulfill who he is on earth, then he had not to pursue what makes them different from him, but what makes him different from them. How and why is that important? Because looking at the baboons, there are no characteristics that he can relate with them with regards to how they are formed, with regards of the body he has and the body they has, the mind he has, the mind they have. So they do not have similar structures, similar characteristics, but then they grew up in the same place learning the same things, but that does not mean they are one and they are of one identity. So him pursuing, looking at the baboon, why are they bent like this? Then he's trying to imitate that too. How do they make these noises while they speak? And he tries to imitate that. So what he's doing is trying to pick up that identity which is not in him, but that is all he can see, that is all he knows, and that is who he wants to be based on where he is. So when he comes out and he sees human beings and he's looking at those guys wearing clothes, speaking words, not the sounds they make back in the forest, they move with two legs, they are driving cars, and he's wondering, look at these guys, they are off. How are they doing this? People are supposed to be living like this, supposed to be speaking, making these kinds of noises. So he will be looking at them as misfits, as people who do not fit in, as outcasts. But meanwhile, if he was to be open to learning who he is, look at his characteristics and say, oh, those are like mine, and trying to figure out if those are like mine, how are they doing and how are they using that? So that now the more he's relating with that, the more he's coming to the awareness of the features he has and what he's doing and what he's supposed to do and what his features are capable of. Because back in the forest, he cannot invent, he cannot work, he cannot build a family, a human family. Back in the forest, he cannot start something that can serve the people. He cannot serve and live in his purpose as God intends for him to. So unless he sees human beings and trying to figure out, oh, my head looks like that, my body looks like that, but how are they doing that whilst I have the same with them and doing this? Then if he intends to follow and learn according to how he is and follow and pursue those that have similar structures and similar features with him, then that's when he finds his satisfaction, because he comes into the awareness, the consciousness. He is growing to fully understand who he is, because he is pursuing himself at the very core and not trying to see what makes the baboons different from him. So maybe you grew up in a background where it did not teach you to be who you are supposed to be. It is not your background's fault. It is not your parents' fault. They gave you the best they could. So maybe I count. I am made for more. I want to live accordance to my purpose. I want to fulfill God's will for my life. I want to change nations. But then your background is limiting you to certain opportunities. Your background is telling you some opportunities are not for you. It is teaching you the things that are not fulfilling you, because you are meant for more. So you want to pursue greater things, but where you are not being taught of those. You are being taught as far and to the extent as your background can get you. So if you are that kind of person, then we say welcome, because you just found a home.